Hello, I'm glad to be with you again on one of these encouragement times midweek. You see, encouragement means to put heart into us and to one another. You know that this COVID virus and all of its effects on our nation, on our world, has kind of taken heart out of many of us. Around our family, and I think I've shared this with you, my prayer has been during this shelter-in-place time that we would grow closer to our family members and we would spend more time also with the Lord in His Word and grow closer to Him. And so this week we have an opportunity to corporately grow close to the Lord. Tomorrow, Thursday, May the 7th, is the National Day of Prayer. We could fast together tomorrow. During the writing of our Constitution, all the way back in the 1780s, they were calling for days of prayer and fasting as they got to very crucial times. The first president to officially ask for a National Day of Prayer was Abraham Lincoln. In 1863, in the midst of that brutal, bloody Civil War that we were a part of, he called for that first official day of prayer and fasting. And so the theme of this year's National Day of Prayer is Pray God's Glory Across the Earth. The theme was chosen long before this pandemic came to America or came to this world. It was chosen back last June or July. And it was chosen out of the book of Habakkuk, or maybe Habakkuk, depending on where you come from. And you see, when Habakkuk was writing the scriptures, he was writing some 600 years before Jesus came to this earth. And God's people, the nation of Israel, at the time, there was rampant wickedness and strife and oppression. Men were breaking their covenant vows of marriage with their wives and divorcing them in record numbers. There was child sacrifice going on. There was political and theological strife and disagreements all mixed together because it was a theocracy. The lower classes were being oppressed by those with political and economic power. You see, it sounded a little bit like today. The people of Israel were supposed to be people of the book, but they were flouting God's word. Today in America, the divorce rate is nearly 50%. We abort nearly 3,000 babies per year, and there's no media coverage of it. And how many of us really believe in America? How many of your friends and neighbors and loved ones really believe that God's word is truth? How many of us live by that? If you turn to Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 4, we see that pride was the major cause of much of Israel's problems as they waited for the Lord's deliverance. We read in chapter 2, verse 4, "Behold, his soul is puffed up. It is not upright within him, but the righteous shall live by faith." Sound familiar? So Paul picked up on this idea in Romans chapter 1 when he said, "The righteous shall live by faith." Martin Luther clung to this truth and it changed his life. This week we have the opportunity to live by faith every day, and of course every day of every year. Later in chapter 2, Habakkuk gives us a vision to the people of Israel and to all of us. In verse 14, he says, "For the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord as the waters cover the earth." You see, when Jesus comes back and he rules as King of Kings and Lord of Lords, no one knows when that will be except for the Father. But I can guarantee you that every day we are alive, we are one day closer to that day when the earth will be full of the glory of God. Shall we live with this great expectation this day, this week, this month, this year, for the rest of our lives? The final verse of chapter 2, verse 20 says, "But the Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth be silent before him." Now, around our home, every once in a while during this shelter in place, we're doing a verbal fast. That's not easy for me. That's why I have my quiet time before anyone ever gets up. That the earth will be filled with the knowledge of God, we're going to pray, as the waters cover the earth, and that we will be silent. We will be in such reverence of God that we will be silent before him. If you still need the link to our local version of the National Day of Prayer, send me an email. And if you would like also the national link, it is all over the internet.